Hey guys, today we're going to learn how to create what I call a shape overlap artwork. We are going to start with a piece of paper and a pencil. The first thing we do is always the same. We take out our pencil and we write our name. Go ahead and write your name on the back of your paper, and then you're ready to get started. Before we get started drawing, let's review our two types of shapes. And we know that a shape is a line that connects to itself, and that's how we make a shape. So we have our geometric shapes. That is our one type of shape, and organic shapes are another type. Now, our geometric shapes are things like circles, triangles, rectangles, squares, all of those shapes that we know the name of. And usually those shapes we use maybe in math. Now, organic shapes are also shapes because it's a line that connects to itself, but they don't necessarily have names. So they might look like a leaf or a tree or a flower or a star or something like that, but they are organic shapes. They don't have a traditional shape name. I'm using pencil for the first step, so it might be a little bit hard to see what I'm doing. But basically what you're going to do is, with your pencil, draw shapes. Geometric shapes and organic shapes. So I just drew a circle, a rectangle, a triangle, and another circle, another rectangle, and it's okay if they go off to the edge of the paper, and we definitely want them to crisscross over each other or overlap. So that's totally fine. That's actually the point of this artwork, is to make your shapes overlap. And if it's hard for you to see right now, you'll be able to see it better when I trace them with my Sharpie. So I'm just drawing lots of different shapes. I started with geometric shapes, and now I'm doing organic shapes like little blobs and little flowery shapes, zigzaggy shapes. You could do recognizable shapes like moon or flower or anything like that. And when I'm done filling up my paper with shapes, I'm going to carefully and slowly trace them with a Sharpie. Now here's where you can probably see my shapes easier. Now that I'm tracing them with Sharpie, I'm going to trace over all of my lines with my Sharpie. And you definitely want to make sure that you have enough shapes that a lot of them are overlapping or crisscrossing over each other, because that is important to how we're going to color this artwork. You can see that I have enough shapes so that I have many overlapping areas, but I don't have so many that it's like super duper full. You want it very full, but you also want there to be spaces in between, because that's where we're going to be coloring. And if you're not sure if yours is correct, just raise your hand and I can come check it out. Next, we're going to use an eraser and erase any pencil lines that might still be showing. See how I am making an L with my hand and erasing inside that L so that our paper doesn't rip or wrinkle when we erase. Next, it's time to color. You can use whatever supplies you have: markers, colored pencils, crayons. I'll show you examples of all three. I'm going to start with a marker. And the way you're going to color this is you're going to stay inside those black lines that you just traced. So even though I'm coloring my moon shape, I did not color the whole thing. I stopped at those overlapping lines. So where that moon crossed into those other shapes, I'm coloring a different color. So as you're coloring, you're just coloring in all these shapes that you made, just making sure to stop at the black lines, the overlapping lines. Next, I'll show you with colored pencil, which you can use as well. I'm actually using kind of a textured paper, so when you use something like colored pencil or crayon, it actually gives it a really interesting texture. And that will happen if you're using any sort of like thick or textured paper. Remember, I was coloring in the circle, but for those parts that are overlapping, I'm coloring it different colors. I did not color that whole circle yellow. I stopped at where those black lines were. Now when you're coloring, make sure you're not just scribbling it in like this. See how there are still white spaces showing through? You want to really take your time coloring and fill it in nice and neat. That's called craftsmanship. And here's an example with crayon. It looks pretty similar to the colored pencils. And then you're just going to continue coloring in every single shape. Now, if you want to, you can add stripes or polka dots or zigzags or other little shapes like maybe little triangles or something. You can add patterns if you want to, or you can just color them solid. It's totally up to you. You can see how I'm making every single shape different. Your main challenge when coloring this is to not have two of the same colors touching each other. Now that's a little bit tricky, but pay attention as you're coloring and try not to let two of the same colors touch each other. My phone battery actually died while I was filming myself color that, so it didn't get to show the end, but here is a picture of the end result. I don't have two of the same color touching each other. Now, what does that mean? I don't have a red section touching another red section, etc., etc. You want different colors next to each other so that it looks interesting and unique. Good luck. Raise your hand if you have any questions.